So looking on our formula sheet, the first thing we're going to try and find, is there a relationship between kilograms and grams? And this might be one that you know by heart because you've done this before, but it might be one that you're not quite sure on and you still want to go to your formula sheet. So on your formula sheet, notice across the top it says length, area, volume, capacity, and mass. And so the first thing you have to decide, do I know what kilograms and grams? Do I use kilograms and grams to measure length? Oh, that person looks 5 kilograms tall. Okay. No. 5 kilograms. So kilograms and grams measure mass. So if you go over to the far right-hand side to mass, you look, is there anyone in there that relates kilograms to grams? And in the very first one, it says that 1 kilogram is equal to 1,000 grams. So the first thing you're going to look for is the relationship. And like I said, you might have known this one already. Now, in order to set this up as a proportion, this is how we're going to do it. And this is going to work for any kind of conversion. It might be that you have some shortcuts for grams to kilograms, and that's great. We'll look at those as well. But we want to set up everything as a proportion so that when we get to ones that are more difficult, we have a good method that'll always work, and it will make all of our questions the same difficulty. And in the end, I hope that difficulty is easy for you, and that's my goal. So here we've got kilograms, 1 kilogram is 1,000 grams, and for setting up the proportion, we want to figure out how many kilograms is 200 grams. So we set up our proportion and say, I don't know how many kilograms is equal to 200 grams, but that's a proportion. And I put the kilograms on top this time and the grams on the bottom. If you flipped it, it wouldn't matter. However, we like to put the thing that we don't know on the top of our fraction, because if we're going to use our algebraic method that we've learned already, that makes things easier. It just saves us the step of having to flip it. So we have x kilograms is to 200 grams. Well, we know that the proportion, the formula tells us that 1 kilogram is equal to 1,000 grams. So we can say 1 kilogram is to 1,000 grams. So our formula will tell us what the proportion is. Notice that my kilograms are both on top, my grams are both on the bottom. That's important. Your proportions will only work if they're set up that way. Now, if I wanted to solve for x, if I wanted to solve for x, then we would need to multiply both sides by 200. And so if I multiply this side by 200 and this side by 200, we just get x is equal to 1 divided by 1,000 times 200 is 0.2. Yeah.
Equals 1 over 0.001 times 200 over x, and then you do cross multiplication.
You could do that as well. Okay. So what we get in the end is 0.2 kilograms. Now, some people know that there's 1,000 grams in a kilogram. So they just say, well, I moved the decimal place 3 over. Maybe you've learned that as a shortcut for the metric system. But if you haven't, I would suggest using the proportion here because it works out really nicely. So we have our units. I put the units there to help us realize we make sure we've got the same units on top and the same units on the bottom. We set up our proportions, and our formula tells us that 1 kilogram is the same as 1,000 grams. And then this proportion will work out to be the same because of equivalent fractions. So this one was converting within a metric system. Here is our second example. Can you convert 3 kilograms to pounds? And the first thing you're going to have to do is look through your formula sheet and see if you can find a relationship between kilograms and pounds. All right, so did you find a formula that relates kilograms to pounds? Yes. Which one did you find? The one at the very bottom, so it says, the one that says 1 kilogram equals? So what did it say? 1 kilogram was equal to how many pounds? 2.21 pounds. Good. Did someone find the other formula? Yes, what does the other one say? 1 pound equals 0.45 kilograms. I'm going to just squiggle this here, and we're going to show that we can use either formula.
Peters, Ms. Painchill, and Ms. Forsberg to the office, please. Ms. Peters, Ms. Painchill, and Ms. Forsberg to the office, please.
Now, this formula sheet is set up so that you pick one over the other. Right now, we are converting kilograms to pounds. We are converting kilograms to pounds, so we are converting metric to imperial. So they would say, we would like you to use this one at the bottom that says 1 kilogram equals 2.21 pounds. Okay? But both of them will work, and we'll see why that is. Hello?
Adair, could I please have Autumn Buck to...
So we want to know how many pounds this is going to be. So we set up our ratio. I don't know how many pounds it's going to be, but I know that I'm converting 3 kilograms. So I set that up as my first proportion. And I use my formula to set up my next proportion. I know that 2.21 pounds is equal to 1 kilogram. So once again, I set up my proportion. I want to solve for x. The x is being divided by 3. Opposite of dividing by 3. Multiply this side by 3. Those 3's will cancel out. I multiply this side by 3. And I'm going to get that x is equal to 3 times 2.21, which is 6.63 pounds. There's a way to do less steps than that, and that's great. The 2.21. Right, and sometimes we can see those shortcuts, and that's great. If you can say, well, if I know 1 kilogram is 2.21, then 3 kilograms would just be 3 of those, and I could just multiply by 3 right away, which is great. Yes? If you check it in your calculator again, I think it will come out as 6.63. It might have been just something you typed in wrong, or maybe you forgot to multiply the 1 by the 3. Okay, so yeah, when you multiply everything by 3, remember to multiply the 1 by the 3 as well, and that's why it comes out as 6.63. Good. Now, if we had used the other formula, yes? It might be your calculator's rounding to 1 decimal place. So it is, but we'll fix it up so that it's not. Yeah. So that part, I'll fix that up. Now, if we use the other formula, same thing, we would set things up that would say we want to find x pounds, and we know we have 3 kilograms, so that's the proportion that we have. And now our formula says that 1 pound is equal to 0.45 kilograms. So now our proportions are set up the same. We still are dividing by 3, so just like last time, we'd multiply by 3. We'd multiply by 3. And here we'd take out our calculator and say, what do I have? After these 3's cancel out, I'm going to figure out that x is equal to, so I go to my calculator, 1 divided by 0.45 times by 3. And this time it comes out to 6.66 pounds. Our answers are a little bit different. In fact, I'd have to round it. According to my calculator, it's going to be 6.67 pounds. Now, our answers are a little bit different, and the reason they are is a lot of these formulas on here are already rounded. They're not perfect.
Ms. Trenholm, please contact the office immediately, please. Ms. Trenholm, please contact the office.
So what we have, this formula, 1 pound is 0.45. It's actually different than that. There's more decimal places. More accurate would be 0.454, but they've rounded it on this formula sheet. So the important thing is if you show your work and you say, this is the formula that I've chosen, and then your answer comes out to 6.67, that's perfectly fine. If you show your work and say, this is the formula that I chose, and your answer comes out to 6.63, that's perfectly fine. In fact, they're both very close to each other, but because these formulas are a little bit rounded, they're going to be off a bit. If you want to find out exactly what it is, you can go to YouTube or, Google. How many people have found the formula? Right. Formula on your formula sheet says 1 pound equals 16 ounces. Oz. Anybody know why they use LB for pound? We could. I don't know why. Lubs. Maybe. Maybe, yeah, because like Libra means weight in a different language. So, Latin. Probably Latin. Anyway, so we have 1 pound equals 16 ounces. We want to find out how many ounces, so I'll use X, is 7 pounds. Again, you might see a shortcut on how to do it right away. That's great, but let's set up our proportion because this is really going to help us with any type of conversion. We know that there are 16 ounces in 1 pound. So notice I have the ounces on the top, pounds on the bottom. So we want to solve for x with our algebra method. We notice that we're dividing by 7. The opposite of dividing by 7 would be to multiply by 7. Those will simplify, and I need to multiply this side by 7. So 16 divided by 1 times by 7. Check it with your calculator. Is 112, and I wanted to find ounces, so I write ounces in the end. So if 1 pound is 16 ounces, 7 pounds will be 112 ounces. And this is one where you might say, well, I know 1 is 16, so I could just times it by 7 to get how much 7 is. And that's great. That's great if you have that as a shortcut, because that's exactly what happens when we do the math as well. But we need to make sure that we know how to set up our proportions. And last one for you to try on your own. Convert 5 kilometers to a pound? That won't work. To miles. There it is. 5 kilometers to miles. Yeah, I think you might have difficulty if you try to convert 5 kilometers to pounds.
That's why we're asking you to do it.
So again, the first thing you're going to have to do is find on your formula sheet a formula to convert. And there are two different ones, so whichever one you choose will work. How many people found this formula? 1 kilometer is equal to 0.62 miles. Show of hands. Okay. How many people found this formula? 1 mile equals 1.61 kilometers. Anybody find that one? Okay. So whichever one you found, go ahead and set up the proportion and solve it. I'll put the answers up for both of them in a second. If you finish really quick, try the other one and see how they compare, how close they are. Again, they're going to be a little bit different because these values have been rounded, but try them both. Yeah. So we want to find out how many miles, so x miles, and I know that it's a proportion, it's going to be what 5 kilometers is. And then I have my formula, I'm going to put the miles on top because I have miles on top over here, and 0.62 miles is 1 kilometer. So we write the units in because it's very important that if you put miles on the top in this proportion, you need to put miles on the top on the other proportion. That x is being divided by 5. The opposite of dividing by 5 is to multiply by 5. Multiply by 5 on both sides. And 0.62 on our calculator divided by 1 times by 5 is 3.1. So we get 3.1 miles. That's using our first formula. If you had chosen the second formula, we have 1 mile is 1.61 kilometers. We want to figure out x miles, and we know it's equal to 5 kilometers. Set up that proportion. 1 mile, 1.61 kilometers. Again, we're going to multiply both sides by 5. And we go to our calculator and we do 1 divided by 1.61 times by 5. And you get 3.105. So x equals 3.1. If I round it to 1 decimal place, it comes out to be exactly the same. If we look at more decimal places, it's a little bit different.